After 2 pretty full days of much more struggling than it should have taken to get it apart, the engine and tranny are finally out of the Durango. There's a lot of cutting of rusty bolts involved. Must be nice to not live in the Northeast. About to start some work on the motor now that it's removed. I need to get rid of the exhaust manifolds. I got 3 on this side loose, 1 broke off at some point in time. I'll need to drill that out. These 2 have almost nothing even remotely resembling a head of a nut or a bolt to turn them out. On the other side, we have this one, this one, this one, and this one, where you can't even tell what size it would be. They just look like round clumps of rust. Got the front 2 loose already. The way I loosened them was I let the motor warm up while it was still in the vehicle, and I think that was enough to give it enough heat to back them out a little bit. I didn't back them out all the way, I just backed them out enough so that I knew I'd be able to remove them later. After that, after I get these off, I'll replace the valve cover gaskets. A little tough to tell, but leaking a lot of oil. It's everywhere, whole motor's caked. There we've got both valve covers replaced. Valve covers are cleaned up on both sides. I'll probably replace them with a little nicer valve covers at some point. You see the new blue gasket in there. Got the exhaust manifold off both sides. Some of the bolts came out, some of them didn't. These ones on the back had nothing even remotely resembling the head of a bolt left on them, so what I did was cut through them with a cutoff wheel. See on here, the cutoff wheel went, just cut the head off, slid the manifold off, and then the bolts just ended up twisting out either by hand or with, by lightly gripping them with a set of pliers. At this point I'm going to start cleaning up the block. The old motor mounts went right here, pretty much in the middle of the block, and the new ones will be going right here, which I'm not real thrilled about. That means pretty much half the weight of the motor is going to be carried by, or half the weight of the motor and transmission assembly is going to be carried by the motor mounts and half by whatever I come up with for a tranny mount. Not that I wouldn't have bought the kit, but it would be nice if the majority of the weight of the motor and some of the weight of the transmission was held by the motor mounts. But it just means I'll have to build a little more beefy transmission mount than I was planning. So get the sides and the back of the block all cleaned up. I'll get the transmission cleaned up, and I'm going to leave the front part of the motor to clean up later, because I'll end up replacing some of the hoses that are under these brackets and taking everything apart, so I'll take care of it at that point. But here's the before. I already picked some of it off, but a lot of just loose flaking paint and rust and grease. Engine's more or less ready to go in at this point. The motor mounts, new motor mounts are bolted to the engine. See, the block is all painted now. Cleaned that up and painted it. All of the studs have been removed. This one ended up being a pain. It was broken off when I got the engine, and first I tried an easy out, but that wasn't budging it at all. I tried an easy out with heat. That didn't do anything. I was worried it was going to strip off the easy out, and I tried welding a nut to it. But since I drilled the hole for the easy out, the filler in the middle of the bolt, where I drilled, just kept tearing out, so that didn't work. Then I figured I could just drill it the whole way and retap it, but I got to almost the right size, and the tip of the drill bit snapped off probably 3/8 of an inch inside of the hole, so it wasn't even flush, it was pretty deep in there. So what I ended up doing was ordering die grinder or a Dremel rotary tool type bit called a rescue bit. Basically it's made for removing broken easy outs and broken drill bits, and that worked quite well. I ended up getting the 1/8 inch version and just kind of reaming out what was left of the drill bit in there, and was able to re-tap the hole from that point using the original threads, because when I initially drilled the hole for the easy out, I centered it as much as I possibly could in the bolt in case I did have to drill it out, so that I could drill to basically where the threads are and then tap from there, and that ended up working out just fine. So other side, basically the same story. I got the motor mount bolted up, all painted, ready to go in. I'll be replacing the oil pan once the engine is in place. Yeah, getting ready to lift it up now.